What's up guys, Ivan Carranza here and welcome to Bass Tone Tuesday. Today we're gonna talk about fanned frets. I get asked this quite a bit on social media when people see this bass, my Dingwall Super P, they ask, why are your frets like that? Why are they crooked? What's the deal with that? What's the reasoning behind it? And if you've been watching my channel, you've probably seen me use my Dingwall Super P as well. And in case you're not familiar with fan fret instruments, I'm gonna try to explain the reasoning and the benefits, or if there are any benefits, and the logic behind using this kind of frets. Before I explain that, I have to give a general information about basses, in general. If you take your regular J or P bass, those are considered long scale instruments. And that is, if you take the measurement from the nut until the saddle of the bridge, you have 34 inches. There are, of course, also medium scale basses, which are 32 inches long. And then we have, for example, short scale instruments, which are 30 inches long. So a J and P bass is 34, and that is the standard for most basses and most brands, IvanBassist, G&L, Fender, you name it. That's pretty much a standard on all brands, except for example, Rickenbacker, I think those are 33, and maybe some other brand does some more weird, scale length, but most of the time, regular basses are 34 inches long, and they of course have parallel frets. Now, here on this bass, if you take a look at the bridge, right here, you can see that it is angled. It is not straight like in a regular P bass, for example, or jazz bass. You see that it's going like this, it's at an angle. And the reason behind this is that each string has a different scale length. Compared to a regular bass, which all strings have the same length, this have a different scale length for each string. In this particular model, we have the G string with a length of 32 inches, that makes that a medium scale string, so to speak. And then the E string is 34.25, so it's a bit longer than a regular P bass, for example. And each string goes up by 3/4 of an inch, so 0.75. If it had a fifth string, for example, a B string, that would be 35 inches long, so 32 to 35. In this case, I go only up to the E string. And because each string has a different scale length, we cannot place the frets the same way, because all the notes will be completely out of tune. And for this reason, we have to place the frets at different positions, so at an angle. Now, Dingwall basses are not the first instruments that use this concept of multiple scale length, because this is also called a multi-scale bass. If you think, for example, of a grand piano, the same thing happens there. You have the treble strings, the right part of the keyboard, which are shorter than the bass strings that are on the left side of the keyboard, and they are considerably longer. The same thing happens, for example, in a harp. Treble strings are shorter and the bass strings are longer. Sheldon Dingwall took that approach and started implementing it to basses, giving the treble strings a shorter scale length and the bass strings a longer scale length. What that does is that the treble strings get a bit warmer, or get a warmer tone, and the bass strings get more definition, especially on the other models, which are even longer than this one. Now on this bass, because we have a 32-inch scale G string, which is a medium scale G string, and a somewhat of a medium scale D string as well, these two strings sound warmer than on a traditional bass. They have more depth, more warmth, and they don't sound as brittle as in some other basses where, for example, I avoid playing the G string on other basses because they don't carry that much body when you're playing a bass line and you go up to like this. It just, the bass completely disappears. Here, some depth in those notes because of the shorter scale length. Now that is one part of the benefit of having multiple scale lengths. Another good thing is that we have a much more even tension across the strings, and that is really cool for the right hand because I don't have to pluck harder on any string. I can pluck with the same amount of strength on all strings, and that makes it easier, and it gives you more stamina also while playing, because I can just it just feels a lot more comfortable. And this is, usually on most basses, it depends of course on the set of strings that you have, but usually you have to pluck the D string and the E string and the G string a bit harder than the other ones because of the amount of tension that they have. Here it's just a really smooth transition between the strings. Another great thing is that if you take a look at the frets, they start going like this and they go like that in the lower portion of the neck. And if you take a look at your arm while you're playing, it does follow that motion as well. It goes like this and starts tilting this way when you're playing up the frets. And this allows you to play certain phrases or certain bass lines or intervals a lot easier. So that's another great benefit. There's an ease of comfort for many phrases. And in this particular bass, because it is medium scale to, let's say, regular long scale, it does also have, you don't need to stretch as much. You don't need to like really open up your hands, and I don't have huge hands, and it is a lot comfortable to play for this reason. Now you might be wondering, is it actually really easier to play? Because it looks kind of complicated with those weird frets. I think it's gonna throw me off because they are at an angle. I'm gonna play something and I'm gonna land on the wrong fret. I don't think it is that easy. I've had friends come over to test gear and just do a bass hang, and every time, and I mean seriously, every time that I've given someone the bass, they haven't had any issues playing. You can adjust completely normally to play in this bass. You don't even need to look. You can just play your normal phrases. It feels completely normal. But, and this is something that I think is not mentioned most of the time, because people say, yeah, there's no transition phase. There are a couple of things that do require a bit of a different approach. For example, I notice it the most when I have to play root, fifth, and octave here at the lower position, where on a normal bass, I can just do this completely comfortably. I can do it here also comfortably, but I do have to stretch a bit more. This fifth to sound without, kind of hard to play wrong, but to avoid it fretting out. And it gets better if you put the bass like this, and if you stand up, for example, and you would normally play. It's much easier, but that is one thing that I do notice. The other thing is when you have to play here in the upper portion of the neck, and some phrases do require a different fingering. Some are easier to play, but some do require you to put your hand in a different position or use a different fingering than what you've been doing probably for the most of your playing career, right? Because you've gotten used to having parallel frets, so you have to adjust a little bit there. It's not like super complicated, but those are two areas where I do notice, okay, I need to change this a little bit. It's minor, but I think it's important to mention. So now I'm gonna show you some sounds of the bass so that it's not just a talking video. And I'm gonna be doing a full demo of this bass also on the channel because I've had it for a year and I haven't done that because of the lockdown, and also had a knee surgery. But that demo is coming where I'm gonna show you all the available tones. Right now you're only listening to the P pickup going to my Noble DI, completely flat. I'm not gonna put any EQ, nothing. So this is how the bass sounds. So I hope you guys liked the video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and also if you have ever played a fan fret bass before. Also, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell to stay up to date with the content that's coming to the channel. As always, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care.